I was signing the consent forms when Dr. Morrison burst through the exam room door, her face pale. She didn't knock. She didn't apologize for the interruption. She just walked straight to me, placed her hand firmly on top of mine, and said in a voice barely above a whisper, "William, don't sign anything. Not yet." My pen hovered over the signature line. I looked up at her, confused. "What do you mean? These are just the standard forms for the procedure." Brandon already explained. "Where is Brandon right now?" she interrupted, glancing toward the hallway. "He went to get coffee. He'll be back in a few minutes. Patricia, what's going on? You're scaring me." She closed the door quietly, then turned to face me. Dr. Patricia Morrison had been our family physician for over 20 years. She'd delivered Brandon. She'd held Margaret's hand during her final days 3 years ago. I'd never seen her look like this, worried, almost frightened. "I need to show you something," she said, pulling a folder from under her arm. "But we have to be quick. I'm not supposed to have this." My heart started racing. The fluorescent lights overhead seemed too bright suddenly. The antiseptic smell of the hospital made my stomach turn. "What is it?" I asked. She opened the folder and spread several pages across the exam table. Lab reports, brain scans, cognitive assessments, all with my name on them. "These are your test results from last month," she said, pointing to the first set of papers, the ones Brandon brought in. "According to these, you're showing advanced cognitive decline, early-stage dementia, memory loss, inability to make sound decisions." I stared at the papers. "But I feel fine. I mean, I forget things sometimes. But doesn't everyone at 65? "That's just it, William." She pulled out another set of papers. "These are your actual results. The ones our lab generated. The ones I just pulled from our system this morning because something didn't feel right." She placed them side by side. Same dates, same tests, completely different results. "The ones Brandon submitted show severe cognitive impairment," she said. "But these, your real results, show you're perfectly healthy for your age. Better than healthy, actually. Your cognitive function is excellent." The room felt like it was tilting. "I don't understand. How could there be two different sets of results?" "Someone falsified them," she said bluntly. "Someone with access to medical databases and enough knowledge to make them look authentic. And that same someone has been scheduling appointments for you, bringing you in for procedures, and—" she paused, her jaw tight, "filing paperwork to have you declared incompetent." "Incompetent?" "There's a guardianship petition being filed next week. I only found out because the judge's clerk called to verify your medical condition. When I pulled your file to prepare a statement, I found both sets of results. The fake ones and the real ones." My hands were shaking. I gripped the edge of the exam table. Brandon wouldn't. "He's my son. He's been taking care of me since Margaret died. He moved back home to help me. He has been systematically creating a paper trail to prove you can't take care of yourself," Patricia finished. "William, if this petition goes through, Brandon will have complete control over your finances, your medical decisions, everything. You'll have no legal authority over your own life." I felt sick. The coffee I'd had that morning burned in my throat. Why would he do this? Patricia's expression softened with something like pity. "I think you know why." And I did. Margaret's life insurance. The house, fully paid off, worth over $1 million in today's market. My retirement accounts, my pension, everything we'd built together over 40 years of marriage. "But he's doing well for himself," I protested weakly. "He has a good job in tech, William." Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. "I need you to listen very carefully. Margaret made me promise something before she died. She made me promise to look after you, to make sure Brandon didn't." She trailed off, but I understood. Margaret had known. Somehow, my wife had known. "She never said anything to me," I whispered. "She didn't want to poison your relationship with your son. She loved Brandon, but she saw things. The way he looked at financial statements, the questions he asked about inheritance, the sudden interest in coming home to help when he'd barely visited in years." Patricia's eyes were bright with unshed tears. She told me, "If anything seems wrong after I'm gone, If Brandon seems too helpful, too involved, please check on William. Make sure he's really okay. I thought about the past 3 years. Brandon moving into the guest room, taking over paying bills, insisting on coming to all my doctor's appointments, suggesting I might want to simplify my finances by adding him to all my accounts, mentioning how complicated it would be for him to sort out my estate if something happened to me, how much easier if he had power of attorney now. I'd thought he was being caring, responsible, a good son looking after his aging father. The procedure he wants me to have today, I said slowly. What is it really? Patricia flipped to another page. According to the consent form you were about to sign, it's a minor procedure to address some neurological concerns. But William, there's nothing wrong with your brain. This procedure isn't necessary. And if Brandon has power of attorney, by the time you wake up from anesthesia, she didn't need to finish. I understood perfectly. What do I do? My voice came out hoarse. First, you don't sign anything. Second, you need to secure your assets immediately. And third, she pulled out her cell phone. You need to call your lawyer, the real one, not the one Brandon might have suggested. I don't even know if I have a lawyer anymore. Margaret always handled. David Brenner, Patricia said. He handled Margaret's estate planning. He's been trying to reach you for months, but Brandon told him you weren't taking calls, that you were confused and he was handling your affairs now. The pieces were falling into place like a nightmare puzzle. Every helpful gesture, every concerned suggestion, every time Brandon had said, "Don't worry, Dad, I've got this." It had all been part of a plan. Here, Patricia handed me her phone. David's expecting your call. I contacted him this morning when I realized what was happening. My hands were still shaking as I took the phone. Through the door, I could hear footsteps in the hallway. Someone whistling, getting closer. "That's him," Patricia whispered. "Brandon's coming back. William, stay calm. Don't let him know you know anything yet. Just tell him you're feeling unwell, that you want to postpone the procedure. I'll back you up. Tell him you want to go home and rest." The whistling stopped outside the door. "But what if he—" "I won't let him take you anywhere," Patricia said firmly. "Trust me. Trust Margaret's judgment. She knew you'd need protection, and that's why she made me promise." The door handle turned. I looked down at the 2 sets of test results, my real health and the fiction Brandon had created to steal my life. Then I looked up at Patricia, this woman who'd been my wife's best friend, who'd kept a promise to a dying woman, who was risking her career to warn me. "Okay," I said quietly. "I trust you." Brandon walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee. He had my smile, Margaret's eyes. He'd been the joy of our lives for 38 years. And now, he was my worst nightmare. "Hey, Dad," he said cheerfully. "Sorry that took so long. The line was crazy. Dr. Morrison, I didn't know you were here. Is everything okay with the pre-op?" Patricia smiled professionally. "Actually, Brandon, I need to speak with you outside for a moment. There's been a slight complication with the scheduling." Brandon's expression flickered just for a second, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Calculation, coldness. Then his face smoothed back into concern. "Is Dad okay?" he asked. "Your father is fine," Patricia said, "but we need to postpone today's procedure. I'll explain everything. William, you just rest here for a moment. We'll be right back." She guided Brandon into the hallway, closing the door behind them. Through the small window, I could see them talking. Brandon's body language shifted from concern to confusion to something harder, more defensive. Patricia remained calm, professional, immovable. I looked down at Patricia's phone in my hand. David Brenner's number was already pulled up on the screen. All I had to do was press call. My son was in the hallway, probably trying to salvage his plan. My wife's best friend was standing between me and disaster, and I had a choice to make. I pressed call. "William?" David Brenner's voice came through immediately. "Patricia said you might be calling. Are you somewhere safe?" "I'm at the hospital. My son is right outside. Dr. Morrison is with him." "Good. Keep her close. Don't go anywhere with Brandon. Don't sign anything. Don't make any statements without me present. Can you do that?" "Yes. I'm 15 minutes away. I'm bringing Detective Laura Vance with me. She specializes in elder fraud." "William, I need you to know This is serious. If what Patricia told me is true, your son has committed multiple felonies. Identity fraud, falsification of medical records, attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. I'm not vulnerable, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. No, David agreed. You're not, but he tried to make you vulnerable. That's what makes this so calculated. Listen to me carefully. When we arrive, there's going to be a lot of questions. Brandon will likely be arrested. Are you prepared for that? Was I? This was my son, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, helped with homework, walked down the aisle at his wedding 7 years ago. The same wedding Margaret and I had paid for. The same marriage that had ended in an expensive divorce 2 years later. William? David's voice pulled me back. I know this is hard, but you need to be clear. Are you willing to press charges? Through the window, I saw Brandon pull away from Patricia. His face was red. He was angry now, no longer hiding it. He pushed past her and reached for the door handle. Yes, I said. I'm willing. Brandon burst back into the room. Dad, we're leaving. Now. Dr. Morrison is being completely unreasonable, and I think we need to find you a new doctor. Someone who actually cares about your health. I'm not going anywhere, I heard myself say. Brandon froze. What? I'm not signing anything. I'm not having any procedure. And I'm not going anywhere with you until my lawyer gets here. The mask fell completely. Brandon's face went from shock to rage to something colder. Your lawyer? Dad, you don't have a lawyer. You barely remember what you had for breakfast. Now come on, we're going home. And we can talk about this when you're thinking more clearly. He reached for my arm. Don't touch him. Patricia stepped between us. Brandon, I think you should leave. This is none of your business, Brandon snarled. He's my father. I'm taking care of him. You have no right. I have every right as his physician to protect him from potential harm, Patricia said coldly. And right now, I'm very concerned about his safety. So you can either leave voluntarily, or I can call security. On what grounds? On the grounds that I have evidence you've been falsifying his medical records and attempting to have him declared incompetent through fraudulent means. The silence that followed was deafening. Brandon's face went white, then red. That's insane. Dad, she's lying. She's trying to turn you against me. After everything I've done for you, after I gave up my life to move home and take care of you. You mean after you lost your job and needed somewhere to live rent-free? Patricia's voice was sharp. After your ex-wife got the house and you needed to rebuild your finances? After your father mentioned updating his will to leave everything to charity in your mother's name? Brandon's mouth opened and closed. How did you... Margaret told me everything, Patricia said. Every conversation you two had about money. Every time you asked when she was updating the estate plan. Every calculation you made about inheritance. She documented it all in her medical files, in case something like this happened. That's a lie. Is it? Because I have notarized statements from your mother, written while she was still sound of mind, expressing concern about your intentions. I have emails. I have recordings of phone conversations. She knew, Brandon. She knew you were waiting for her to die so you could manipulate your father. I watched my son's face as the truth settled over the room like a heavy blanket. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't desperation. This had been planned, maybe for years. Dad, Brandon turned to me, his voice suddenly pleading. Don't listen to her. I love you. I would never hurt you. I just want to help you. You're getting older. You need someone to look after things. And I'm your son. That's what family does. Family doesn't falsify medical records, I said quietly. Family doesn't try to have you declared incompetent to steal your life savings. I'm not stealing anything. It's going to be mine anyway eventually. I'm just making sure it's protected. Making sure you don't give it all away to some charity because you're not thinking straight. There it was. The truth. Naked and ugly. You thought Margaret's estate plan was wrong, I said slowly, understanding now. You thought you deserved the money more than some charitable foundation. You've been planning this since before she died. Brandon's jaw clenched. She was going to give away millions. Millions that should have gone to family. To me. I'm her son. I deserved. You deserve nothing, Patricia cut in. You deserve prison if William decides to press charges. The door opened. David Brenner walked in, followed by a woman in a dark suit showing a police detective's badge. Brandon Wesley? Detective Vance said. I'm going to need you to come with me. We have some questions about fraudulent medical documentation and attempted financial exploitation. What happened next felt like a dream. Brandon was read his rights. He kept looking at me, kept saying, Dad, Dad, please, don't let them do this. I'm your son. But his voice sounded far away, like he was calling from the bottom of a deep well. Detective Vance found more evidence in Brandon's car. Printouts of my financial accounts. Blank power of attorney forms with my signature forged at the bottom. A folder labeled guardianship petition with a court date 3 weeks away. Even a fake will, supposedly signed by me, leaving everything to him. It took 4 months to unravel everything. Brandon had been planning this for over 2 years, since right after his divorce. He'd hacked into medical databases, created false records, even forged documents from specialists I'd never seen. He'd slowly isolated me from friends, from other family members, convincing them I was declining, that they shouldn't burden me with visits or calls. The financial forensics team found that he'd already siphoned nearly $200,000 from one of my accounts he'd gotten access to, claiming it was for my medical expenses. In reality, he'd been using it to pay off his divorce settlement and credit card debt. Patricia testified about Margaret's concerns. David Brenner provided Margaret's confidential letters, written in the last months of her life, detailing her fears that Brandon might try something after she was gone. She'd even updated her will to leave a specific fund for my protection money, set aside specifically to pay for legal defense if Brandon ever tried to manipulate me. My wife had known. She'd tried to protect me even from beyond the grave. Brandon's trial was brief. The evidence was overwhelming. His lawyer tried to argue that he'd been trying to help, that he'd been concerned about my cognitive decline, that the falsified records were a misunderstanding. But the prosecutor showed the jury the sheer scale of the fraud: dozens of falsified documents, forged signatures, manipulated medical records. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge gave him 7 years. I sat in the courtroom and watched my son be led away in handcuffs. He didn't look at me, not once. That was 8 months ago. Now, I sit in my kitchen, the kitchen Margaret and I designed together 30 years ago, and I think about what Dr. Morrison told me that day. Margaret made me promise to look after you. My wife knew that the greatest danger wouldn't come from disease or age or accident. It would come from the person we loved most, the child we'd raised, who looked at us and saw only dollars. But she also knew that love doesn't end with death, that protection can reach across the grave, that a promise between friends can save a life. I didn't attend Brandon's sentencing. I couldn't. But I did attend the dedication ceremony for the Margaret Wesley Foundation for Elder Protection last month. We fund legal services for seniors facing financial abuse. We train healthcare workers to spot the warning signs. We've already helped 12 families in situations similar to mine. Patricia serves on the board. David Brenner provides pro bono legal advice. And every person we help, every family we save from this nightmare, is a testament to Margaret's love. People ask me if I'll ever forgive Brandon, if I'll visit him in prison, if, when he gets out, there could be a reconciliation. I don't know. Maybe someday. Forgiveness is complicated. It's not about him. It's about whether I can live with peace or let his betrayal poison the rest of my days. What I do know is this: Margaret loved me enough to protect me even after death. Patricia loved Margaret enough to keep a dangerous promise. And somewhere out there are other families, other seniors, who will be safer because Margaret saw clearly what I couldn't. That's legacy. That's love. And sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we expect. Sometimes they're the friend who refuses to break a promise. Sometimes they're the doctor who risks their career to tell the truth. Sometimes they're the lawyer who answers the phone. I still live in our house. I still keep Margaret's pictures on the mantle. And sometimes, when the evening sun comes through the kitchen window just right, I swear I can feel her here, keeping her promise, watching over me. Thank you, I whisper to the empty room. Thank you for seeing what I couldn't. Thank you for loving me enough to protect me from our own son. The house is quiet. But I don't feel alone. I never really was. Because love, real love, doesn't just protect us in life. It builds walls around us for after. It makes promises that last beyond the grave. It turns friends into guardians and transforms betrayal into purpose. Brandon took 3 years of my peace. He tried to take my autonomy, my finances, my dignity. But Margaret took 30 years to build safeguards around my heart, and in the end, her love was stronger than his greed. That's the story I tell now. Not about the son who betrayed me, but about the wife who saved me, about the friend who kept her promise, about the lawyer who answered the call, about the detective who built the case, about all the people who showed me that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the network of souls who choose to protect you when your own blood turns cold. I'm 65 years old. My cognitive function is excellent, according to my real medical records. I'm healthy, I'm safe, and I'm surrounded by people who actually love me, not my money, not my assets, but me. That's more than a lot of people have. That's more than I realized I had, until the day Dr. Patricia Morrison walked into that exam room and said, "Don't sign anything." 3 words that saved my life. 3 words that honored a promise. 3 words that proved love survives death. And if you're reading this, if you're worried about an aging parent or relative, if something feels wrong but you can't quite name it, trust that instinct. Look closer. Ask questions. Be the person who keeps the promise. Be the Dr. Morrison in someone's life. Because somewhere out there, there's another Brandon, another scheme, another son or daughter or caretaker who's looking at a vulnerable person and seeing opportunity instead of humanity. Don't let them win. Margaret didn't let them win, and neither will I.